Okay, hey, this is Dwayne. We're here for the second part of Lesson 8, Moral. And we're talking about inventories, doing inventories, and what that's going to mean for us, and what it's going to do to help us improve our lives and help us to be honest with ourselves and get over some of those hang-ups and those hurts in our past that are holding us back in life, and also get rid of some habits. There's some bad habits, there's some bad virtues that are also holding us back and hurting us in life. You know, if you wasn't here for last week, I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to the first half of this lesson, because you don't want to miss the first half of this lesson. Second half is important, but the first half is too. And especially where we're talking about these scales and the balance and having a sponsor before you get heavy duty into inventory. So this is the second quarter. I encourage you to find one of these on eBay or wherever you can, bookstores. Order them straight from Celebrate Recovery if you can, or find a Celebrate Recovery program and at a church somewhere, and see if you can pick one up. They usually give them away, and I know COVID has really shut a lot of things down, and it may just not be happening in a lot of places, but look for one. It'll help you. Now this class will help you good too, but there is some homework that will also make things a little bit easier for you. So, we're basically still on Principle 4 and Step 4, which basically is talking about us examining or confessing to ourselves our faults to God and someone we trust, which is basically talking about doing an inventory of our lives. And then also, we're doing this fearless. We're being fearless when we do it, because we have to approach it. We are afraid to face some of these things, and so we're going to have to find some courage. And I'm not talking about liquid courage, okay, or some of those other things that pump up your ego artificially. Like we're going to just find some from God, and we're going to ask God to help us get through this. So anyway, tonight's acrostic is basically moral, and for the M in moral, we're going to say make, and for the O, we're going to say open, and for the R, we're going to say rely, and the A, we're going to say analyze, and the L, we're going to say list. Okay, so the first one here is make time. Now this is important. Now this is where you're going to have to sit down with a notebook and a pen and a piece of paper or whatever, and you're going to schedule an appointment where you can think, where you don't have the TV going, the radio going, about 20 kids running all around you, making noise, and not on your work time, because you don't want to lose your job or whatever. So you need to find some time, schedule some time, some peace and solitude. Make an appointment with yourself is what I'm saying. Make an appointment with yourself. Job 33:33 says, listen to me, keep silent, and I will teach you wisdom. Now, sometimes we get so busy we don't want to think about stuff, that we're just workaholics and doing this and doing that and doing that, and we don't even have time to sit down, and actually think about something. And so you're going to have to schedule an appointment, slot out everything else to sit down and through this process. The second thing, the O stands for open wide. It's kind of like when we used to go to the doctor when we were kids, and the doctor had that popsicle stick, and he'd tell you to open wide, and he'd look at your tonsils and everything, and if you're lucky, he gave you a piece of candy or something, while you were there. But there certainly was no popsicle on that popsicle stick, and so it wasn't a pleasant experience. And this isn't going to be necessarily a pleasant experience, but it's a necessary experience to get you over some of the hang-ups and the hurts and things in your past, and get your past denial, so that you can become a stronger person, have a stronger heart, and be more at peace with life. So denial protected you temporarily. It's just a temporary protection, as you know, but it holds you back in life, because you get old and you got all these resentments, and you haven't made progress in building relationships or amending relationships, building bridges, and it's a destructive thing long term. Job 7:11 says, "Let me express my anguish." That means open up. Talk about these things, okay? Express them verbally. Even if you're talking to yourself, express them verbally and write them down on a piece of paper. It says, let me express my anguish. Let me be free to speak out the bitterness out of my soul. So he's basically out of my soul. Express out the bitterness out of my soul. He's talking about a person that has some bitterness in there, some resentment. By talking, speaking it out, expressing your anguish, getting it out of there. There's something about getting that out of there. So, and I know it's hard, because there's some of these feelings that you've pushed way down inside from some hurts and things that you don't want to bring those feelings. But you're going to have to bring those feelings back out, to be able to look at it and before you can do a proper inventory. So here's one. Ask yourself a question. When you're starting to make out your inventory list, what do I feel guilty about, the most guilty about? And the first thing that comes to your mind, that's the first thing you need to write on your list. What's the second thing I feel guilty about? Write it down. What's the third thing I feel guilty about? Write it down. Fourth thing I feel guilty about? Write it down. All right. So anyway, I want to explain again what conviction is and condemnation is. Conviction is not condemnation, okay? Condemnation is judgment. That's when people think of judgment. You are going to hell. That's it. You can't do anything in life. You're worthless. You're a sorry individual. You're not worth 2 cents. All these things that hateful people have thrown at you over the years. It could have been your wife, whatever. Could have been your husband, okay, to be fair. But whoever it was, and those things are like arrows in your heart, So, and if you've done those things to others, you've got to write that down and realize that there's some damage there, and you may need to repair that, over time with them, to clear your mind and clear your conscience. Think about conviction of, when you're driving down the highway and they've got those little bumpy things over there where the stripe is on the edge of the road, and you get a little sleepy or groggy, or you're not paying attention, you're looking over there at a squirrel or something, that's crossing the road, and you get on those things, it goes bump, 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 bump. Think about that as being conviction, okay? That is the warning sign that you're doing something that's going to probably either affect you negatively or affect somebody else negatively and hurt you in the long run, okay? Think about that, because if you run on off the road and get into the ditch and have a crash and hit a tree or whatever, that's a major catastrophe. That's what those little warning things are there for, okay? So Romans 8:11 says, there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus, and once we're saved, we're saved. Then we're going to learn how to grow and learn how to get past some of these things that have held us back in life, that are hurting us and hurting others. Okay? God doesn't condemn us, and we don't need to condemn ourselves. We don't need to condemn ourselves, and we don't need to allow other people to condemn us. That's none of our business, okay? They need to focus on themselves, or they better be worried about what's going to happen to them down the road. But because that's going to be their hang-up, so we're not going to be worried about their hang-ups. We're going to be worried about getting over our hang-ups. And if we're one of the ones that's been judging them, then we need to write that down on our list too, okay? So another thing would destroy us is resentment, okay? And let me tell you, I'm not going to get into details in this, but I have seen what resentment has done to somebody. There's two types of people in the world as far as agreeableness, and some people are more agreeable than others, and some people are more disagreeable than others. And then, of course, you got everything in between where they can go both ways. But some people are incredibly agreeable. They go with everything that's being told, and these are the kind of people that are taken advantage of. And if they don't say anything, for one thing, people don't even know they're taking advantage of them. They might, like if they lose their car or something because they can't pay their bills because they bankrupted them, or something. That's different. But if you don't ever tell somebody that there's an issue, and what happens is they may not know, and stuff gets built up inside of them, the agreeable person that is, and they basically don't have a life, and they don't prosper very good and they get this resentment, man, and they ended up, whoever's taking advantage of them, or whoever they see that's taking advantage of them, when the person may not even know what's wrong, a lot of times they'll break ties. I mean, this destroys relationships. You know, the opposite side of that is someone who's so disagreeable that they will never, ever, ever help anybody. They're always about themselves, and that's the extreme opposite. And um, but you have to stand up for yourself. I mean, that's just all it is. And if it's in your personality to be too agreeable, you're going to end up getting some hurts down the road that are going to build up, and you got to figure out how to get rid of them. And that's how, is you learn how to take up for yourself and stand strong for yourself. Okay. Um, you may have to take that in small steps. You don't want to tell your boss what you've been thinking of them for the last 20 years all at one time. Okay. You may have to even change jobs and start afresh. Anyway, another question to write down about your inventory is, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid of facing? Well, there's a dragon down there. I mean, that's what I'm afraid. I mean, I don't want to go in that cave. It's dark, and there's snakes probably, and there's a dragon. I mean, I don't want to see him. I don't want to, I don't want to go. So, but you got to get yourself some courage, and there's a way to do that. You face your demons head on, okay, and you face that dragon, but you do it with a sponsor, and you do it with a network or multiple sponsors, and you do it with a network of friends to help you when you're down, because it's going to hurt a little bit, okay? You're going to get a couple of wounds, but all those wounds are going to heal up. They're nothing like the wounds that you're keeping in your life by not facing that dragon, okay? So what are you afraid of? Joshua 1:9 says, "Do not be afraid or discouraged, for I, the Lord your God, am with you wherever you go." So you have your sponsors. You can get you an accountability partner. You can get in church, get around some positive people that love you. You build some relationships with new people if you have to that love you, and then the number one sponsor and accountability partner in your life is going to be God. So sponsor or not, you if you don't have a sponsor, you better have a good prayer life, and you can do it. You can do it. It's great to have the sponsors. Try to do that if you can. Okay, I mean, look, you've been stuck in a rut for 30 years. Don't mess it up by jumping too far ahead in this program and trying to do this by yourself without having a proper relationship with God, your higher power, and with a sponsor. Having a network of friends that can help you, okay? So, you've been stuck 30 years. Get this part right, okay? Get this part right. Rely on Jesus for that courage and strength to go kill the dragon too, okay? Isaiah 40:29 says, "Jesus gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak." Read that several times and think about it, okay? Take out that appointment with yourself that I asked you to, where there's no distractions, and you read that verse and you understand what it means. Jesus gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Your higher power, okay? He's your number one sponsor. These steps, they need to be done in order. That's another thing. If you're just now starting, I would encourage you to go all the way back to the beginning. If you're going to get the full, unless you've already been through the course or the first part of the course, but I still encourage you to go all the way back to the beginning and start, and then come all the way up and get caught up. So Psalm 31:23 through 24 says, "O love the Lord, all of you who are his people, for the Lord protects those who are loyal to him." So cheer up. Take courage if you are dependent on the Lord. The Lord's the best father you can ever have. He's the best father you can ever have. So the A in moral stands for analyze. Analyze your past honestly. Be honest with yourself when you write these things down. You don't have to show anybody this. You can lock it up in a safe if you want to, or whatever. and pull it out when you're ready. When you got some quiet time, you're making that appointment with yourself, and you review it, and you're editing it, and you're adding to it, and you're erasing, and you're rearranging the chronological order a little bit and shifting things around, and then you're thinking about it, and well, this caused this, and that caused that, and this caused this over here, and hey, I never thought about that before, man. But when you write things down, it helps you process things in your brain, and that's why I say, we're starting a process now where you're starting to get this stuff organized, because all that stuff's jumbled up in your head and all this stuff's jumbled up in your heart, and it's not doing you any good when it's all jumbled out. That's why we have to start putting pen to paper, pencil to paper, sharpie to paper, whatever you got to write with, put it on paper, and face this stuff. So, you got to look at your feelings, your thoughts, your motives, and you got to look at what Carl Jung calls the dark side. This is kind of like, the joke. Everybody's seen Peter Pan, right? The kid that didn't grow up, never wanted to grow up. Well, you think it's not a joke that they are always showing his shadow. They even knew about the shadow side even back then. He couldn't never really catch it, right? The shadow kept kind of running around, escaping, disappearing on him and everything. But because he couldn't catch it, he never really grew up. He never really grew up. If he'd have faced his shadow and been honest with himself, then maybe he could have become a man and married that beautiful young woman and had some children and had a family, see. So, and he'd have been a man. Kind of like, well, anyway, I don't want to get into cartoons or whatever, but that just popped in my head. Anyway, Proverbs 20:27 says, "The Lord gave us a mind and a conscience, and we cannot hide from ourselves." The Lord gave us a mind and a conscience, and we cannot hide from ourselves. But yet, we do. That's what denial is. We're hiding from ourselves. But what Proverbs says is, He gave us a mind and a conscience. We cannot hide from ourselves. What He's saying is, if you hide from yourselves, it's going to really create havoc in your life. Okay, and that's why we have to face these things. So anyway, a list is basically what I said. That's going to be the next thing is for moral is L for list. Basically it's a list. That's where you write down past events in your life, the major events, major mistakes, major traumas, major things you have guilt over. All the majors. That's what I'm calling the majors. I guess you go back to the M in moral is major. All the majors on the L, which is list. Write them down, okay? In Lamentations of 3:40, of course, again, I'm going to repeat it. It says, "Let us examine our ways and test them." Let us examine our ways and test them. And notice it didn't say, let us examine just our bad ways, okay? Look, I'm going to do this again, just for remembrance sake. It didn't say just examine our bad ways. See that weight right there? See what it's done to your life? It didn't say just, Lamentations isn't saying just examine your bad ways. Or we can reverse it. It didn't say let's just examine your good ways. It says examine your ways. So we're going to examine all of our ways. Even this little bitty thing right here. And I have apparently lost. No, I thought I lost one. Anyway, so we're going to examine all the ways, the good and the bad and the ugly and the pretty. And God's going to help us with that, and your sponsor is going to help you do that. And you're going to have some emotions, mixed emotions and everything. But you're going to figure out how to get beyond those mixed emotions because you're strong and because I believe in you and because God believes in you. And He has a blueprint here for you to go by in the Bible and in having a communication and dialogue with Him on a regular basis, okay? Schedule out time for yourself to do this inventory, but also schedule out an appointment with God at least once a day or maybe more when you're going through this inventory. Schedule some time with Him to talk and communicate. Balance is important. Balance is important. Because you saw what happens there. That represents your life, okay? Balance is important. And if you don't get that balance, you might drop out of this recovery program. You might just say, heck, with it. I'm not going to face a little bit of pain, to go through this. But then you're willing to go through a lifetime full of pain because you're not going through a little bit of pain to get you to a better place. So it's really a good swap, really. It's like an investment in yourself, an investment in your family, an investment in your life, in your society that you live in, your culture. So doing a little bit of pain is going to bring you great rewards in the future if you stay with it. Like exercise, when you first start out, you're just exhausted, tired, sweaty. I mean, it's like, man, I hadn't felt sweat in 5 years. It's like, what is this stuff? But you get in better shape, then you feel better, and then you enjoy it, and you enjoy life better. It's good for you. It mixes up all the good chemicals in your brain. And whether it's exercise unnaturally, what I call unnaturally through exercise and gym or stuff, or literally just doing stuff around the house, moving things around, lifting, sweating, you know, planting a garden, weeding with a hoe, so to speak. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna keep these scales here throughout the inventory lesson because I want to keep that as a reminder for you about the importance of balance and about the importance of what just the smallest weight out of all of them can do to get your life back in balance, okay? And to not give up and not throw in the towel. And don't give up on your recovery either. So, uh, I want you to do, because really a lot of it comes down to dopamine as far as things. Some people don't require very much. A cup of coffee in the morning will bring them enough dopamine to bring them happiness all day long. Other people, the dopamine really doesn't drop very much, and they need extracurricular activities. And that's why some people get addicted on cocaine, because they don't have the social connections or the social things going on in their life to really properly get the balance. And if you don't have the balance, you're going to seek out things, whether it's cocaine, whether it's women. For you women, it could be men having a good time. It could be just getting drunk and just partying all night to try to get that. Again, these things might bring those chemicals temporarily, but long term they're going to destroy you. Long term they're going to destroy you. So you don't want that long term. Nobody wants that long term. You want to stop it. And if you've already got these habits ingrained in those neural pathways in your brain, it's going to take a process to get you out of that and get those neural pathways changed where they grow over and new neural pathways are up there, and it's going to be, and then you're going to think, man, my life was crap back then. And by that time, when you're a year or two into the recovery process, by that time you're like, man, I'm not going to, let that back into my life because I'm doing much better now and in a much better place. And that's another reason, you probably need to start taking a journal so that you can look back 3 years from now and you can remember, it can remind you where you were when you started. And you can read your journal where you are now and you can say, who was that guy? Or who was that woman, that wrote that? I mean, it's like, heck no, I'm not going back there. Because if you got a journal there, you can remember it, and it's going to be like, no, I'm not going to go back there again, So I want you to study up, back to the dopamine. I want you to do some research or homework too on that rat park study, RAT. That was where that scientist did a study, and he put a group of rats over here and didn't give them any social constructs, and he put another group of rats in a different area, and he gave them little exercise things to do and things that would challenge their brain and make them enjoy life a little bit better. And he put a bottle of cocaine-laced water and a bottle of water in each place, and the ones that really didn't have, a lot of things going on in your life, they were just drinking the heck out of that cocaine-laced water and wasn't drinking the plain water. But the ones that actually had a life were not even bothering that cocaine-laced water. They were just emptying because they didn't need it, because they were getting what they needed in the environment they were in. So I want you to do a little think about that, but I want you to read up on that, and I want you to think about what I'm saying with that. You know, I'm not saying you're a rat, but rats are social just like people are, and you know, for a rat to say, "Hey, I like cocaine water," I mean, shoot, that's a brain thing, okay? And that's the connection. You're not a rat, okay? You're a human being, but you know, but it could be the cocaine, it could be chasing women, it could be, you know, going out to bars every night, it could be the casino, it could be any number of things, because coffee just isn't doing it for you to give you the dopamine like it gives some people, you know, because they're genetically wired where it doesn't, you know, take very much at all to get the dopamine they need. So anyway, um, so study about that, read up about that, and remember that prayer is important during this process. And you know, even if you have a sponsor, you need to pray. If you don't have a good sponsor, you need to pray extra hard and talk to God every day. And talking to God will help you too. Remember the verse where we were talking about getting that bitterness out of your system. You know, you're talking about it. Job talked a lot to God about it. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life, man. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life, and he talked a lot about it, and it helped. It helped. And then he ended up getting everything back again, didn't he? Okay. So pray that you don't condemn yourself too harshly, and remember that. Don't condemn yourself. Don't judge yourself too harshly. Keep that balance that I'm talking about. Okay. And I'm going to leave it with that, and I'm going to say a prayer for all of you tonight, and you want to tell you again that God loves you, and He wants you to do well, and He wants you to get rid of those hurts and those habits and those things that are hurting you. And so with that, I'm going to say I'll see you next week, and with lesson 9, and good night to you, and you take care. All right, bye-bye.